What's going on, guys? It's Mike Norris. I'm here today with Dre de Vera. What's up, Dre?
What's up, Michael Norris? How you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. I can already tell this is going to be a great conversation. I'm fired up to talk to you.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be really fun.
I was talking with Dre right before this, telling him how his background is way better than mine, and I got to step my game up. But he gave me some tips. So
yeah, all you do is pop some LEDs on the floor, and you got it. I mean, it'll pop you right out. I mean, it'll just separate you from the background.
Yeah, I need that. I'm probably going to order my Amazon right after this.
There you go.
If you could, Dre, why don't you tell everybody in our audience who you are?
What's up, everyone? My full name is Paul Andre de Vera. I've been doing SEO for about 15 years now, and I've been building websites for about 20 years. I mean, I was doing it in high school and then into college. I graduated in college with a multimedia and design degree. And then from there, that's when I learned SEO. And I was kind of like, not necessarily grandfathered into it, but it just became something that you learned being in the industry. You know, people were trying to learn like how to drive traffic to your websites. And that was the only way to drive traffic at a certain time unless you had to pay for it. I was a college kid, right?
Sure.
So I wasn't going to pay for traffic. And then for the same time, my website in college I was a party promoter. And you know, like I was trying, like, how can I get more people to check out my website so I can get more people on the guest list and make my parties like cracking and everything. And so I found out SEO was the way to go. And if you search San Francisco nightlife, San Francisco parties, my parties were just off the hook during those times. So, some good times. Yeah, so that's how I got started.
Oh, yeah.
And then from there, I mean, again, SEO was not an actual job in the enterprise world. I got my first corporate job in 2005, 2006. And then from there, I was able to, you know, grow it, and it became like an actual career because it like just got bigger and bigger and bigger. From SEO, they tacked on SEM. And then after SEM, you need analytics. So I was the SEO, SEM analytics person in a bunch of companies, and then became like an overall like web manager for like a global web manager for like the previous company I was at. And now I'm back to what I love. Solely SEO, global SEO for a company called Workday.
Wonderful.
Yep.
And right before we were talking, you kind of mentioned to me that I don't even remember the exact, it was a 4X, 5X, you've quadrupled your salary or something.
Oh yeah. Okay, check this out. So when I said back in 2006, right, I was able to become became a web developer from my degree and everything like that. And then, you know, I also specialized in SEO for the company, but, you know, that wasn't my actual role. And then, you know, I was dating someone and they're like, hey, I have a patient who actually makes 3 times more than you do doing what you're doing. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like making websites? He's like, no, the SEO stuff. And I was like, for reals? And so since then I was like, okay, I put my, you know, application out there and everything like that. And then I didn't get any responses. It was one of those things like, oh, what the heck? Okay, I mean, how now it got me curious. If I can make 3 times more, what can I do? So my first part of kind of using SEO to my advantage to like get a job was during that time I like searched all the LinkedIn postings. I mean, I did this all manually because there was no type of like scrapers or anything like that. And I would scrape the job descriptions of all the SEO postings. And then from there, I would put it in like this Ngram report and see which keywords kind of showed up the most times.
Nice.
And I put it on my profile. And since then, I was able to get like, you know, a lot of recruiters were finding me, and I was getting all these offers. And I was like, oh, this is cool. So, I mean, this is kind of outside the box thinking of how you can use SEO, because in reality, recruiters on LinkedIn are using the search function, right? And search engine optimization, the search engines work in similar ways. And at that time, you know, it was really easy just putting it was basically the same thing as doing SEO, just, you know, putting the keywords on the page and just a bunch of times. And then from there, so check this out. So there, I tripled my salary, right? Because I said, okay, I learned, you know, so I got about 2.5 triple my salary from that first gig to another gig. And then about a year and a half after that, you know, recruiters were coming in, and, you know, like I said, I was just getting like requests all the time. I was getting recruited this time. I didn't have to apply anymore. Now I had the upper hand. And then so like I was like, okay, so this company reached out to me and was like, hey, you want to come in for an interview and stuff like that? And I was like, okay, cool. Like, so I was like trying to do this, and I was going on a bunch of interviews, but again, I wasn't getting the job. Like, I was like, okay, why are these people like finding me? But I'm not closing the deal. So check this out. Thinking like an SEO, my next interview I went into was that I did a site audit of their site right when I went into the interview. It's like, because you could use these tools, any tools.
Yeah.
And I go, yeah, and then they're looking for an SEO. So they don't know what we were going to do or, what an SEO actually does. But I kind of showed them right away up front. I was like, hey, so I made a presentation. I'm like, hey, look, you have all these technical errors. You have this, you have that, you have this. And you know what? Hire me now and I'll get that done within the first 90 days. And they're like, oh, boom. so, then that, that happened, right? And so, and then again, so I got into my next gig. It's all about relationships building too, because the person that hired me in the gig before that was the same recruiter that got me into another company. And that company, he's like, it was being able to show my performance. And I was able to do that with all the keyword rankings and stuff like that. So and I was more of a the global web marketing manager there. So it was like, I was doing everything again. I had a team of developers and stuff like that. But at that company, I got it. People were just reaching out again. I had the upper hand. And then, so at this time it was I was at a pretty big company where the company I'm at now. And I was like, oh, wow, this is like a prestigious company. This is like, a lot of people want to go for this one. So I need to make sure I close this one. Like, this is something, I have the upper hand. They can't reach out to me. And then, so I went on the interview, and the moment, like, I reached about the VP, like, once I got interviewed the VP, and then I was in the same room with the hiring manager, and I go, like, this is like just being right there in front of them. Like, if you search the position, search marketing global lead, why don't you go ahead and search marketing global lead, right? They searched it, and boom, I was number one right above their job posting. It says, hire me, I'm Dre de Vera. And so I was like, what? They're like, what? I'm like, how'd you do that? I'm like, I could do it for the company. Just let me know. And then I've been there for the past 3 years now. And then each time, dude, because it's hard to get like a raise at one company.
Sure.
And so like when you I'm not saying like this is something you should do, but I mean it's becoming a normality where it's like, when you move companies, you get a significant pay increase.
Sure.
So that moment when, from having that one little webmaster gig until like 4 or 5 years later, 4 or 5 years later, I was able to quadruple my income. It was just like that. It was like 20%, 30% raise, 30, 35% raise. So it was like, it was cool. And I use SEO to like close every single part of it. I mean, it was something I was doing, right? And it's one of those things that even with like personal branding, you can even use like SEO with personal branding, because I mean, I was trying to help digital marketers get into a digital gig, right? I mean, again, we live in a digital world. And so I was telling like, you should have people are going to, like these recruiters are going to search for you. We see this all the time. And you should just own your top 10 results for your name. And even if your name is common, just add marketing to the end of it. And then so when you let them know, it's like, oh yeah, just search Paul Andre marketing. And then when you go long tail, you can really close it. It's because it's how you direct these people, because they'll never know. Like if you direct them to a certain way and they find it themselves, they're getting that validation and they're finding it on their own. It's just more powerful that way.
Sure. I would have hired you too, man. You come in and show me that.
There you go, right?
Hell yeah.
So I mean, yeah. So I mean, that's how I was able to do that. I mean, there's just so many different other things that are going in that involve marketing. I mean, I'm such a marketer. I just love marketing. I started a show on SEO because I love SEO so much. It's just one of those things that I love doing.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit more about the personal branding, and then I do want to dive into your show as well. But what else, when it comes to personal branding, would you recommend for people? Because I think that's something that a lot of companies now are realizing. They want employees who have their own brand and who maybe work on side projects of some sort, because it shows that passion, allows you to hone your skills without having to do it on company time, things of that nature.
Yeah, no, personal goal branding for me goes way back into when I was like a nightclub promoter, right? You're a party guy. You got to stand out. You have to be that purple cow, like what Seth Godin would kind of like put it as. It's like, you got to really stand out of these people in this audience. And then I started out by like, as a party promoter, like, I'd be dressed up in a suit and everything, but I'll have all these piercings on my face. I'd have 2 mohawks. And they're like, what the, I just stood out. I took personal branding to so hardcore that I branded my actual self. I mean, even like right now, I mean, I can have, my haircut. Yeah, I got someone a mohawk, something. People actually comment on my hair, like anything to like kind of just like stick out, not necessarily like a sore thumb, but that purple cow, like that you get noticed and people will remember you by. One of the other things, like I was at a company, a startup company, and I know this is like the whole cliche of like, there's drinking, whatever, but I had something, it was shot o'clock. Like at 5 o'clock, I would walk around with a bottle from the, the kitchen and just pour everyone shots at 5 o'clock. It's one of those things where you would kind of like, even like, oh, okay, now Dre's like the fun guy. I want to like, hang around, not necessarily hang around, but like they know I could bring energy to into like the workplace. And then after that, it's like right now I have, at work days, like, you go into the office and stuff like that. I got branded where it's like I would wear really solid colors, like solid tops, solid bottoms, but crazy looking socks. Always like my socks were bright. They were like crazy. And they actually started like crazy sock Mondays just because they would see me come in with socks, some crazy looking socks all the time. Like I have a collection of socks. I have more socks than you probably can imagine, but I would be solid. And then always, like whether it's an elevator, strangers, whatever like that, not necessarily strangers, but workmates that I don't even work with, just always comment on the socks. It's just being able to like get noticed. I mean, notice in a good way, right? You don't want to like in any bad way. And then one thing I was telling you about earlier was how I actually made sure my name stood out. Like I wanted to be that only person. Like my full name is Paul Andre de Vera. I can go by Paul, I can go by Andre, but I chose to go by Dre because there's not that many Dre's in the company, and for the most part, there was never another Dre. There's just some Drews, but no Dre's. And I was able to like brand myself as Dre. So if anyone talks about me, they know who Dre is. Oh, that's the guy in marketing. That's the guy that runs Toastmasters. That's the guy that does this. And it's just simply just be calling myself Dre. And then if you go even further beyond just the workplace, I'm really big on like personal branding using SEO and digital marketing. If you're a digital marketer, do digital marketing on yourself. If you are in the San Francisco Bay Area right now, if you search Paul Andre de Vera, you'll see an ad I put together, like an ad that says, hire me if you're looking for this. I am your next search marketer, stuff like that. It's like a bulletin board. And it's really cheap because I'm targeted. I only want people in San Francisco to see it because that's the only place I want to work. And if any recruiters see it, there's like they'll see like, oh, what the heck? There's like this ad there. But then again, I own all my results from the first to third page. Like you have to make sure you register yourself to a bunch of like any social profiles, anywhere you can, like SoundCloud, a Medium, Tumblr. Even if you're not on there, go ahead and register those accounts with your username, with your name. And so you can like build that age of holding them. So, you can build that whenever you do put something on there. And that way you control every single thing what anyone sees about you. And then like if someone, for whatever reason, if you get a bad review, you can really bump it off. I mean, for the most part, it's one of those things like, just own your results and then do it by just registering for every single account you can, or anything you can think of, and keep it consistent. And then the branding part, if you notice, if you look at search a lot of my profiles, I use the same picture everywhere. My picture is usually the same. It's that white background, and it's funny too because, hey, do you play chess? I'm like, yeah, like I see your picture everywhere. Like it's like it becomes your logo. So if you use the same photo everywhere, even in your personal places, it's like people will see that and they'll see you somewhere. You're like, oh, you look familiar. Oh, really? I mean, and reality is like you just probably see my face everywhere through like the whatever circles we're in. But yeah, so like personal branding is huge. I totally feel like you should even build yourself out there. Like even put yourself out there if you want to make sure, like I'm talking about like, SEO and on Google, but at the same time, companies are looking for like the ones that understand, like are really passionate about their things. Like you mentioned, and if you write about your, whether you write about HR tech, fintech, SEO, all that stuff, it's something that you can at least have out there when someone searches you again. It's something that you should really, really pay attention to. It's something that's like, I actually want to do, like when I started, I had a startup. We're on pause right now, but I had something called Close One, and it was a sales enablement platform with me and my buddy. We actually started this, and I was making sure every time we had a meeting, I wanted to make sure we made every single employee have their own personal brand. Like you are going to be like a sales and enablement expert. You are going to be a PR expert.
Oh,
You are going to be this. Yeah. So I was like, and I was doing it for them. I was helping them like, hey, register for all this, put all, put your bio on all these pages and just copy and paste it everywhere, put it everywhere. And then, when someone searches a company, when you pop up, they see that the company is like, wow, these guys are a bunch of experts. And then, and maybe not, but at the same time, it's in the eyes of the searcher and you can, so it's out there.
That was exactly my point. And I'm glad you said that because it adds to your organization,
Yes.
People don't, let's be honest, people don't necessarily follow brands today. They follow people.
Yeah.
People like people. They flock to people.
Exactly.
And like you said, having your own photo that's sort of like your logo.
Yes.
I think that's just huge because I can't even tell you how many times, I interact with someone on LinkedIn and I'm like, oh, I wonder if they have a Twitter too. So I move over and I go to look for it and I'm like, is this the same guy? I'm not sure.
See, yeah, no, you have to. It's just the way we are now. I mean, Google's like huge, and like it's searching for things. It's just in our everyday lives, and then just got to know that you're out there. And it's at the same time, some people are trying to be private and whatever. But hey, if you want to be that person, if you want to like be in that rock star, not to say rock star, but just that person to get what you want and whatnot. Just you got to put yourself out there. You have to get noticed somehow.
Yeah, and if you're watching this and you're someone in your company who maybe you're probably doing great work regardless of who you are, but if people don't notice you, you're not really going to do anything. And I think that's kind of your larger point, Dre, is you've got to bring attention to yourself and you've got to, have people actually see what it is you're doing. And maybe it's vocalizing it. Maybe you have Slack at your company and you update people periodically as to like the victories that you're seeing and you're celebrating or whatever it is.
That's huge. You have to do that because if you don't tell it to anyone, if you don't even tell one person, it just dies with you. No one's going to ever know. I mean, I even put it on my LinkedIn where I was like, I'm public with it. Like, hey, and if anyone wants to like go like fact check me, go call my boss if you want. Or like, I'll put it out there. I mean, it's one of those things that you got to be proud of. That's your thing. That's your resume. That's you. You did that. No one else did. And you want to make sure you let other people know that, and you can do it for other people. Like when companies see like, wow, you have impressive track record. I was like, oh, thanks. I mean, I could do it for your company. It's like, if you want this, I can do it. So I mean, it's about creating that track record and leaving that digital footprint of yourself. Like it's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about your show because you've told me you've only been doing it for 4 months and you're a super energetic guy. You got the solid ass background and everything. I feel like you've got me trumped and you've figured this thing out in a snap. You've got what, 1,000 subscribers?
Almost. I'm right there. I'm at the point. Like, so I'm like at 9, 10 or something like that. And when I was doing my research, it was because like, I was like, I'm in a niche where I'm in SEO. Like I'm really niche down. Like I'm not doing like tech. I'm not doing like anything that's wide on like branding or marketing. So it's like, there's a certain amount of, there's a certain target market I can attract. And then my audience is basically my LinkedIn. And I want to kind of get more digital marketers into SEO. It's one of those things that I love doing. I want to get more people involved. I want to be able to like teach others. It makes me the way when I teach others, I'm learning more myself, right? They say your path to mastery is like when you teach, and you learn a lot more that way, and you retain a lot of things. And so this is my way of learning a lot more things by interviewing the experts. I spend about 20 hours just watching videos. Like in the very beginning of my show, I do about 5 to 7 clips, 1-minute clips. I gotta find those nuggets. Like I literally watch like hours of video every week. And so in the process of watching all these videos every week, I'm learning, and I'm gonna pull out those nuggets, and then help share that with the world of the SEO world. And so you don't have to do that. Like, hey, I'm making a quick shortcut for you, and then they can interact, ask questions if they want to, and then I bring in a guest, and my guest is usually someone that I've met at a conference that I spoke at, or it's like a vendor I would use, or even one of my peers, like someone like I'm in a bunch of masterminds and groups where I can, hey, you want to be a guest. And it's crazy too because some people, at least in the SEO industry, like know a lot of these people are. They're like some SEO celebrities, And then they're all more like they're SEO celebrities. and I own that .com, by the way. So I mean, I'm trying to see something. I'm gonna try to do something with that. But you know, these are some popular SEOs, and they're like, "How did you get those guys?" And I was like, you know what? When I started the show, like, I mean, first of all, like you can like, I'm serious about SEO. I've been doing this for 15 years. You can see it on my LinkedIn. I work for great companies, and the quality of the show is like, it means I'm for real. Like I could have started this back in April when I actually made this show, right? But I took 3 months to learn the software, the lighting, or the cameras, all the tech that I need here to actually, get not necessarily perfect it, but provide something that's quality. Because I know what it takes to make that first impression. When you make that first impression, it means a lot. I don't know. Some people may say, just go ahead and do it. I understand marketing. I understand like impressions. I want to make a great impression when it came out. And so I want to make sure I had all, obviously when my first 4 or 5 episodes, I did have problems, but I was already doing all the crazy things. They're like, how did you do that? How did you do that? And so it kind of like, they didn't care that I had some like audio problems or anything. They're like, how'd you like get that graphics to go on there live or whatever? I mean, it was one of those things that, you kind of like look what's out there and you just kind of like one up it, like, and see like how can you make it different? Like how Facebook took out MySpace, just make that one thing different. And that's what I did. And so I wanted to see like, okay, there were a bunch of news shows out there. I mean, and I was like, okay, let's make this fun. People are calling, is SEO dead? Is SEO dead? That's why my tagline in the very beginning, it's like, SEO video show where SEO is alive and fun. And it's like, I want to always make sure SEO is alive. So I'm trying to brand it SEO is alive. And then it's fun because SEO, it's pretty much boring. It is boring. I mean, the actual work that you actually do is really tedious and boring. But at the same time, it's when you get the results, that's where the fun comes in, and you watch your rankings climb. That's where it's like you see a lot of fun. But again, like so I wanted to provide like this nice, entertaining way to learn SEO, connect with other people in the community. And I'm not selling anything. Like this is, again, the only thing my goal of this is to master the art of SEO by teaching it and, sharing the knowledge that I know. And so that's one of the things that I'm trying to do right now. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I think, there are some tips that to be gained from that. But one question I want to ask you, I want to kind of dive into SEO for sure. Cause you seem like very creative when it comes to SEO. Like some of the stuff you're telling me, it is boring, right? I mean, SEO is boring. It is. But the things you're saying, like ranking, 10 things for your name and all that kind of stuff, where did you come up with these creative ideas or running an ad for your name? Where did you come up with this kind of stuff?
I mean, it's just applying it to myself. Like I treated myself as a business. And so all the job descriptions I did for a company, why can't I do it for myself? Or how can I do it for myself? It's like, okay, I'm paying for ads. I'm doing this. It's like, and if I really had a huge like network where I really wanted to do this, I can probably run a retargeting campaign and put my picture on banners if I wanted to. But I mean, it's just a way of like me being a party promoter, right? I'll tell you one thing that I did as a party promoter that I've heard no one else do. And it's a way to lock in for people to go into my next party. So I'm a tech guy. I'm tech. I'm a big tech guy. I love tech and stuff like that. So at the time, Bluetooth came out, and it was mandatory in California to have Bluetooth. You had to have Bluetooth. You had hands-free set, right?
While driving.
Yeah, while driving. So I knew everyone had a Bluetooth, or had to have their Bluetooth on their phone. And so what I did was I got this router that connected, like a Bluetooth router that would send would like to connect, like this messaging. So like at my party during like maybe towards the end of the party, I would launch this connection, like this device I would have, launch it and say, oh, Paul Andre parties wants to, Paul Andre parties, party next week at blah, 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 wants to connect to your phone. They're like, what the heck? But in reality, they can deny it or whatever. Or, I'm trying to drop a card in their phone, but they got the message. It's like one of those. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like in this Bluetooth marketing. And then because, throughout, even prior to prior to my corporate days, I was an entrepreneur. I had a clothing brand that was in about 200 stores. I had 4 locations that actually had my own streetwear brand here in California. It was like in Berkeley, Concord, Richmond, and it was Concord, Richmond, Berkeley. three places, and then actually no, at San Pablo. So I mean, yeah, so it's 4 different places, and that was an actual location, but my brand was actually in a bunch of stores. I was in over 200 stores. I was at Journeys, I was at Foot Locker, I was at all these stores. Yeah, so it was, you can Google it. Yeah, I used to own. That was another thing I did with SEO. It's like when you search streetwear at that time, I was number one. My brand was number one. You search streetwear. I mean, I don't know what the position is I am now, but if you want to search like, how to start a streetwear brand or something like that, I think I still show up for that. But again, so at my locations, I would have this Bluetooth device where it would like, everyone passing the store is like, hey, show this message to the front desk for 50% off or 30% off. And then they're like, oh, hey, look, I got this message walking by your store. I'm like, oh, there you go. And I think now they do something like that. I forgot what it's called nowadays, but it might be the similar technology. But if you notice that, like, you can walk to certain places and then you can get like certain text messages and stuff like that.
Yeah. Is it geofencing?
That's probably like the what it's doing now. But I was doing it like, I was hacking it. I was using this this Bluetooth device I would like kind of connect, because even when you try to pair something, when you try to pair like some phones, right? Like, your headphones are trying to connect to your phone. Would you accept? Yeah, I was saying, hey, Paul Andre has a party next week. Would you like to accept? And they can say yes or no. But I mean, I already got the message.
So how did you rank number one for a short tail keyword like streetwear? That's pretty.
This was in 2006, so it was really easy. I mean, I had a lot. I mean, at the same time, it was a lot of content still, and I got a crazy story with that one, because I mean, I would rank for a bunch of. I had a retro store. Like my streetwear was more of like retro hip hop. You guys can Google it. It's filthydrip.com. Filthy Drip is also like the name of the I was like on MTV on Jersey Shore, all that stuff. They were wearing all the stuff. Like, even like I mean, this story, there's so many stories I can tell about. I'll pick this one. The one is where Lady Gaga and Kanye West both tried to sue me. And it was crazy because it was because of my Google rankings. When you search Kanye West sunglasses, do you remember those Kanye West had those shutter shades where they're kind of like lines?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I was number one for Kanye West sunglasses. And then I was getting so many sales. Like, I swear to God, like we made a little chime, like cha-ching, cha-ching, every time we got an order in the store, so we can just hear like the order just come in when we got a PayPal notification. It was like cha-ching, cha-ching, and then also with Lady Gaga glasses, because Lady Gaga had these paparazzi type of glasses. Yeah. It's the same thing. So they both sent me a cease and desist. And I was like, why send this to me? Send it to Google, because they're saying that I should take down. They wanted me to take down the page on Google. I'm like, hello, I don't control that. And I just kept on going, and and then it was one of those things where it's like, right? They couldn't do anything. I was like, don't Google that. So yeah, that was my early days of like SEO stuff. And during that time, I mean, in 2006, like there wasn't really black hat or whatever back then. It was doing SEO. It was doing what worked. Right. We never, like, I'm pretty sure if we do some of the things that we did back then, now is considered like black hat. But again, black hat is just something. It's just a term that people use and abuse certain things. I mean, if you even do a tactic that's considered black hat moderately, hey, there's nothing. Just don't use and abuse it. Be responsible when you do certain things.
Sure.
Just with anything. Yeah. And so, like, just like that was one of probably like one of the most profitable keywords that I actually got, because we even made like this whole thing, like this whole sound effect, just cashing in. And I swear to God, and we would sell out. We would get these glasses from like China for like, I think $3-4, and guess how much we were selling for?
Oh, probably at least 20.
$50. I see. Yeah. And I mean, and this is back in 2006. I mean, I'm here just graduating college. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. This, I mean, and there's so many other ways like people were making money online too, like, through affiliates and stuff like that. I mean, but me, I actually had a brick and mortar store. So I used SEO to help me kind of like cash in like really big during those times. And Yeah, and during those times, there was also the crash, right? Like, you know, like about 2006, 2008, like, well, 2000 was yeah, 2008,
Yeah.
and my store was the only one still standing on Telegraph Avenue, right in front of Cal Berkeley, while all the big chains were still going up because we were online. Like a lot of the stores weren't online yet. Like we actually had a very small e-commerce store. We only had like, you know, maybe 10, 20 items or whatever, stuff like that. But it just sold, and we would just make sure our presence was on there.
Well, there's probably a lot of parallels that businesses can draw from that today
Oh
with
yeah.
COVID and everything going on. But what would your suggestions be if let's say today you own a brick and mortar store and you maybe you have a small online presence. You probably have an online presence. Most people do, right? What would you do in terms of SEO to?
Well, that's it's funny because just recently I was on a webinar, and they were saying like one of the questions I got was like, oh, what do we do if our how can we do SEO if like, you know, like a client doesn't have a website? And we're like, tell them to get a website. Like, that's the first thing you need to. I mean, that's if you're gonna try to do business online nowadays, you have to have a website.
Yeah.
But then I said that jokingly. At the same time, I was kind of serious. But at the same time, I was like, hey, get them a GMB. Like you can get a free website and get it ranking. And I tell this not even small, big, even yourself. If you search Paul Andre locally here, I have my own GMB. It's my name. If you search it here, it'll show like, you know, my office and like all the reviews and stuff like that. And it's one of those things where again, it's like it's another place on Google that you can own and it's free. Like, so like any business, like even right now, you can have just tell them to go business.google.com, put it in your business, make sure, you know, an actual location, verify it, whether it's a postcard or sometimes they'll let you do it with a number. And it's really easy and it ranks. And like, and all you have to do is just keep adding that posts to it, because you can actually post things to it, and there's like it's, you can have your own little blog on there. You can put links to certain things, all your profiles. You can add photos. You can actually create like, you know, some certain product list, I believe now. You can connect it to like your Google Ads account, and I believe there's something on, like I can't remember, it was this a couple weeks ago, where you can actually post a lot of your products for free now, or like, you know, for very low cost on Google. And
I have seen that.
Yeah, so like, hey, take advantage of that. That's like, put it on there. You're getting free promotions. And obviously, I mean, Google just is trying to build up their Google shopping, and they just might say, oh yeah, it's free, but they have a different motive, but it is free. Like you don't have to pay for it. You don't have to, why put it on eBay and pay fees when you can do it on Google, right? I mean, it's one of those things that you should do.
Yeah, and obviously they're trying to compete with Amazon, but they do keep beefing up Google My Business.
Yeah.
I mean, when it first started, it was pretty, I don't want to call it bare bones, but I mean, it was compared to now. And those are pretty good signals in my opinion, because they're Google owned, and Google seems to love its own properties. I mean,
YouTube. Oh no, yeah. Well, I tell this all the time. Google loves Google. It's one of those things where it's like, if you can, YouTube, and even if you want to set up a blog, put it on Blogger, anything Google properties, put your business on it, or, even yourself, like, or if you're trying to personal brand, find everything Google, create it, do something with it. They have some like certain like, I think, courses and stuff like that on there that you can create your courses in Google. There's all these things that you can do. I just think Google loves Google, and it's a great place to just put everything you have, or at least whatever you want out there.
So you do enterprise SEO, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So talk a little bit about that. I mean, if I'm a large enterprise company and I'm thinking about my SEO strategy, what should I be thinking about?
So SEO, enterprise SEO, is totally different than like you would think of a regular SEO, like the e-commerce SEO is doing, stuff like that. Totally different story. It's more of like a lot of storytelling, because you have to educate. Again, like SEO, even till this day, is like people won't understand SEO, maybe to like a marketer, but any of your stakeholders, you need to explain what SEO does and what SEO will do. So for the most part, it's all about creating processes, and being able to educate and be able to report on it, and then tell the holistic story. So like, even for myself, like I actually end up taking like public speaking classes, just because so I can be able to teach and present the story of SEO within companies.
I think those paid off.
Yeah, I mean, and now I have my own show. I mean, it's like, so I was doing something where it's like something called Toastmasters. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but Toastmasters, it's totally cool. Highly recommend it.
On you dissected the top Toastmasters person.
Oh yeah. So
I
you
think it
actually
was
saw
years
it,
ago.
yeah,
But
yeah. Like what she the championship, the champion.
yeah,
Like if you Google like how to give a championship speech, I'm pretty sure I show up number one. Uh, but yeah, so you go, you do that. It's totally different, and then it's really with SEO. You don't have to really worry about backlinks because you have that brand recognition already, and you already have so many other people like going, trying to link to your content because of the thought leadership. Um, there's other things like even like I actually started doing this, and I actually recommend this to other people where it's like even though you're an enterprise company, you should still work on your GMBs for every single office. It's another outlet for free promotion. So every place you have an office, create a GMB in that location. And that's one thing I just started doing. Like Workday has like I think 16 17 offices around the world, so we have to make sure I have the GMB registered for each one of those. And then it's really big on the processes, like getting SEO first. If you put in SEO first so we use something called Workfront. It's like it's a kind of a task management tool project where our PMOs use. And when I first got in, people were like trying to get tasks through emails and like SEO tasks and stuff like that, and it was just a big mess. And sometimes some pages will get missed, and when you run your crawlers, your site audits, it's like, oh, missing meta tag here, missing meta description here, and it was like, to avoid that, you just make it. You ensure that you have to do SEO in the very, very, very beginning. So anything piece of content that like goes out on Workday, I actually see and actually provide recommendations for. And then you have to kind of build that kind of that process and that kind of like environment for the company, because if you don't, you're just gonna build up and miss pages, and then you'll just have a big
massive problem.
Mess. Yeah, very, very big mess. And then if you keep doing that, and then the organic traffic just goes. Like if we've been doing this for the past 2 years, and now our organic traffic just keeps going up. I mean, as long as you don't, there's going to be some technical issues. That's one of the big things. Like for me, like I do it all. I mean, there's some other companies that would have a technical SEO, they have a content SEO, sure. Maybe an SEO project manager. For my company, I actually work with like an agency, so I have a counterpart, so I have some help. But other companies will have teams of SEO for each portion. But the best part of the SEO game in a big company like, let's say, Workday, it's you work with every single department. You work with the PR department to get some backlinks from the PR. You work with the content marketing team to like make sure you actually get content created for SEO. You work with the social team, so you get all the social signals and just getting those spiders crawling. You work with the dev team because you want to make sure your site is like optimized for core web vitals or your page speed and stuff like that. And it's crazy too, because now like even more people within the company are like wanting to learn more about SEO. It's something like, oh wow, this is a skill. And then even like Microsoft just put out a study just recently, like one of the top hard skills to have is SEO, automation. There's a few others, but those are two I remember because it's what like I kind of care about. And then they said it was like in the next 10 years these skills are going to be like the most in demand. Like it's one of those things like, yeah, hey guys, if you're watching like the SEO video show, like I would tell them like you are in luck, because right now you have job security for at least the next 10 years. And it's like there's some studies out there doing this. I mean, and again, it's just like when you do SEO, it's kind of like if you think about it, when you do SEO, you're actually looking for user intent. You're looking for, Google's all about like finding the best content for their users. So when you do that, your mindset is like you're actually helping the world. You think about it, you're making things a better place for things.
I love that.
Yeah, it's like the concept of doing SEO is like you're making things you're helping others. You're really helping others because you want to be found. You want to help others find your things, and it's a concept of just having everyone. Be organized. Like just organize your stuff. It makes everything just a lot easier for the company.
I love that mentality, man. That's awesome. I do want to ask you, and I know we're coming up on time here, so I don't want to keep you too long. Maybe last question, but when you're working with your content team to create content for SEO purposes, I'm interested in what that looks like, because I know some people will say, specific word count, drafting up some content, and maybe it's search engine first rather than people first. I'm curious as to your take on that.
Okay, there's a good story behind this one, because just recently, I've been at Workday for maybe about 3 years now. It took me about 2 years to get content creative. Like, what is content? They didn't want to write what is content because they felt it was like too foundational. It was like, we want thought leadership stuff. And I was like, you could be persistent. You got to keep like, hey, this is actually the stuff that's ranking. If you search human capital management software, it says what is. All the content that's ranking are what is content. Like we need to put our what is content on there, right? And so I finally got them onto it. And then the biggest pushback was that they didn't want to write like for search engines. But in their mind, SEO was like inserting the keyword this many times, and they didn't want to ruin their creativity, their creative writing by what I provided. And I was telling like, Google is not like that anymore. Google's a lot smarter. It's all about the variations and the semantic words that go around it. Like I will give you actually, like, I'll tell them like, okay, give me a general topic, and then I would actually get, so I'll have my main keyword, and then, I'll find all the related topics. So it's more like topic clusters and stuff like that, the silos of stuff. If you go to Google right now and just, search a main keyword, anything that's like people also ask or any of the related searches, I grab those instead of like saying like, include the keyword this many times. I do still do correlation reports like that, where I would say at least, hey, add it in 5 to 10 times, anytime. I'll let them choose, but I'll say just kind of mix it in, because like Google's smart enough. And then I go that detailed for every single word, keywords. I mean, well, within the actual piece, and whether it's not also like all the internal links to which content to find and stuff like that. So I provide all that within the brief. Okay, make sure you hyperlink this from these blogs back here. Make sure make sure you cite these locations. So like the process is actually we get a topic. We provide, we'll do the keyword research. And then from the keyword research, we would actually, break it down to just more topics and variations of the words and stuff like that. And then they'll go out and write it, and then we do one more pass and take a look at it. And then there's not that much of a pushback anymore, because they would, like, in their mindset, it was all about including a keyword like 20 times, 30 times. They didn't want to do that. And it was like, again, it's all about education. Like in the enterprise world, it's all about education. And then also finding that one champion in each department that actually will go to bat for SEO, because I don't think I would have been able to get this content created without having this one person on the content marketing team who actually believes in SEO as well. And when she was able to tell her team about it, and because she met with them more, it's like she was able to get them more involved on getting it. So having someone in the company that's in another department that actually can understand SEO, like a partner in crime, and find that person, because you'll make your job a lot easier, and you'll get a lot better results as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah.
So is it all written content that you guys produce?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for at least SEO on my within in my world, at least, because I mean, we are optimizing for podcasts now. It's something new that we're doing. They have a podcast, and we noticed that like search engines are actually locking in, like finding our podcast and the transcriptions, stuff like that. Yep. I mean, that's one of the strategies I've done. We always put the transcriptions in there. And then right now, one of the things we're doing now, we're playing with meta title testing so we can get better CTRs. It's one of those things that I think it's really easy and quick wins for any enterprise company, because maybe you can't get content created, but you can look at some old content and just kind of tweak the meta titles and increase that CTR, right, from Google, and just drive traffic that way. But yeah, there's a lot of other content that they do. I mean, Workday is a huge company. They have videos. They do big virtual events and stuff like that. And for the most part, it's like we'll use paid search to promote some of those things. But events, they come and go. And it's like we'll lock in. We'll make sure we're locked in for like our bigger events, like our yearly events. If you Google it, we're there. And we've been implementing a lot of schema. Schema is something that we want to make sure that's there, because it makes our results, especially for our events, makes the results look a lot rich. You get the date, you get some photos, you get this, and it's one of those things where that was an uphill battle with the dev team, because they're like, why should we add this schema? Because they have to customize the CMS, and in order to customize it, it's a big project. And so I'll just make a little box for me just to insert this stuff. And then so I had to prove it. I have to show okay, look at this. The CTR got a lot higher when we added this scheme, we did this. And it's all a business case. Everything in the enterprise world, it's at least a lot. You have to put a business case for everything. And then again, with all the numbers, is something that you should always think about. Any numbers, put it in there. If you can tie some money, some value to it, monetary, just put it in there so you can see how much money you're making for the company or saving the company. And that's what you should do.
Absolutely. I love that. All right, Dre, thank you. I know if people Google your name, you'll pop up first, but if you want people to find you, how should they find you?
You can Google Paul-Andre de Vera. But yeah, I'm on LinkedIn a lot. So if you just go to, linkedin.com/in/Paul-Andre, I'm there. I'm on Twitter at Paul-Andre. Again, just, you can contact me on those places. I mean, you can search SEO video show on YouTube. Actually, you can probably search SEO show. I should be number one. SEO video, I should be number one on Google. I mean, on YouTube. So check that out though. I mean, that's something where I want a lot of marketers to come in to just even learn about SEO, even see what it's about. And even if you're not like a fan of it, like you don't want to learn about SEO, check out the show. I think it's pretty fun. I think a lot of people enjoy just the entertainment value of like the show itself and the kind of some of the, because I go beyond SEO for the most part too. Like I'll talk about like public speaking, I'll talk about the branding, I go into the journey of like my guest, and it usually goes into like the career path, and you kind of learn a little bit about them. Yep.
Oh, that sounds great, man. That sounds really good. And I have checked it out, and I can vouch for you. It is awesome, especially that Toastmasters one. I like picked up some tips from that actually. Like moving outside of the room.
Oh yeah. Like it's like you're like a book. You have to go this way. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, it's almost shot o'clock, so I'll let you go. But
oh yeah, there we go.
All right.
Cheers,
thank you, man. I really appreciate your time.
All right. Yeah.